This is the Sacred Knowing of Viz video series, interview number 16 with Tisziji Muñoz. I had some questions for you regarding chapters 121 to 126. From chapter 121, you write, social laws through the power and law of universal reverse effect incline and empower beings to oppose and break existing laws. Are you saying that rules, at least on a societal level, are meant to be broken?
Is that your question?
Yes.
Well, yes, I mean that, but we have to know better. It's easy to break them, and it's easy to make them. But if you break them, you have to take what comes with it. And the same, if you make them, you have to take what comes with it. Okay? And that's pretty much a law of the universe. See? We're here to experience bondage and evolve to a point where we want and need freedom, but at what cost? See? Well, creating what kind of consequences to ourselves. See? So there's bondage, and there's the transcending of bondage as a physical reality, and then as an emotional reality, and then as a perceptual reality, and as a mental reality, and as a higher psychic and creative reality. And it's up to us to find, let's say, the kind of freedom and peace we need, because we break our own laws of limits. See, we have limits we impose upon ourselves that are much more profound than anything, I guess you might say, perpetrated upon you by society or the legal constitution of the United States. We are self-limited beings. See, we are self-limiting beings, and we impose things upon ourselves, and then we make them laws, and we live by these laws of limits. See, and bad habits. So you make your bad habits a law unto yourself. And you have to suffer the consequences of that, because nobody's here to be ruled by bad habits. Once you know you have bad habits, then you start to pull away from them and say, this is a bad habit, I shouldn't be doing this. I can do better than this. Yeah. And that's what the self-conscious creative process is about. See? Knowing you are responsible for what you're creating and what's going to happen to you, and you take full responsibility for that, and make sure that you create something you really like coming back to you.
What is true justice? Is it free of pain and punishment?
True justice free of pain and punishment? Well, true justice right now is breathing. Is your breathing free of pain and punishment? Or is your breathing not? Is your breathing full of pain and punishment? Yeah. And you see that that's what you created, and that's what you experience in your body. You experience that around your body, and you experience that in your world. See, what you created, and what you need to, as a problem, solve, see, and transform from limitation to liberation. See, from darkness to light, from unhappiness to happiness. See. It's all wood for the fire. You come in to this dimension with a command to do good. And recreate your world. If it's not created from your past to your liking, then you have an opportunity to recreate it. How you recreate it could have consequence. How you recreate it can have great benefits, see, and can be useful to mankind. And we have a responsibility to mankind, see, a creative responsibility to mankind, because what we do to mankind, we do to ourselves.
Is doing to others what you would have done to yourself considered a form of spiritual practice?
Well, it's not so much a form of spiritual practice. It's really about cause and effect. But you want to do what you have to do because you have no choice but to do it, especially from the heart. The heart has its own, let's say, justice system or checks and balances. And if we're working from the heart, then it's really heart first, and grace to all, freedom to all, And that would seem like a very unreasonable proposition, and it is, because it's at a cosmic level. So it's not a proposition that your self-ego, let's say, your limited and ignorant and unenlightened self, or inhibited self, is going to reason with or reconcile with that. See? Because it's looking for justice for itself. It's looking for a way to self-indulge itself, see, to the extreme degree, where it is like beyond itself with, say, intensity relative to its self-indulgence, where it blows itself out, see. It wants to self-indulge to the max, so it blows itself up completely, see, destroys itself. And that's not good enough, see. That's not about the heart, that's more about the self-mind. See. It doesn't really have intelligence, so it can blow itself up just like that. See. It doesn't know. It doesn't calculate properly. See. Unless that's its intention. But when we're talking about the heart justice and heart balance, see, we're talking about healing. It's superhuman level of healing, see, realization. That all beings, it's like being a big super parent, right? Male or female, and you say you've been parenting a child or a couple of children. You may be responsible for parenting, if you look at it from a bigger level, parenting the whole world, giving to the whole world something. Right? And people who are inspired with a certain degree of genius of this sort say, no, it's not good enough for just my people, it has to be for all people. Good for all, see? And you want to help all. And this is a very altruistic but typically heartfelt impulse. That's the way the heart works, and it should work that way. See? And there's its justice. When it does what it does, it feels its balance. Because it is balance at every step of the way. It knows it is balance. So it is beyond balance. It just is what it is. So the heart's nature then is perfect balance, because it is beyond balance, see, and in balance, and is what it is. And it remains that, and it keeps doing that. And it's not unlike the way we breathe, see, without being conscious of it, but involuntarily or unconsciously breathe. Keeping the balance, keeping everything in order unconsciously until we're made to be conscious of it. So it's a system that is so intelligent and so perfect, in a manner of speaking, at a certain level, say, a vital balancement, that you wonder about it. Say, wow, how can this brain and heart of mine be taking care of me? I never thought it was taking care of me, but I see that it is. Wow, I owe it something. Maybe I should thank my body. Maybe I should thank my heart and thank my brain. Maybe I should even thank myself. Well, you can't go that far. Don't thank yourself. You didn't have anything to do with it. It's given to you to respect and love, see, and nurture like a child. Your body is your child. Spirit, know that. Take good care of it. Know you are held responsible for it. You checked it out. You took it out. Right? And you got to turn it in. It's all part of an exchange system. Think about it, but then don't think about it. Just do the right thing.
You were saying about how the heart would have us help all. What about the old saying that charity begins at home? Would you say that one needs to start by serving or helping their own family before they can graduate?
Up to a point. Don't make it a form of slavery, though. Right? Don't make it an end point, which is what we were trying to do. We're always trying to limit ourselves to, well, doing the right thing, but only so far. No, that's not far enough. Sure, it starts there. That means that's the first step. It's just the first step. What's the next step? What are the next steps in the infinite ladder that we have to negotiate, right? And navigate? Right? Right. So the first step is not really a first step. You just dropped out of your mother, whether you like it or not, and you're tossed into the arms of the medical people on hand, right? Whoever's there, and then you're in their mercy. You're at their mercy. So you're really at the mercy for a long part of the journey, and then you start to assume responsibility for yourself, so that you can bring some mercy to other people, and that's important. When are you going to be merciful? and start to give back in a certain spiritually recognized way. See, instead of asking for more and more that you don't need. See, how about giving what is needed? Instead of asking for what is not needed, how about giving what is needed for a change up and a form of balance?
From chapter 122, you write, "The highest form of love and forgiveness is detachment, not careless indifference." How does conscious detachment differ from indifference? Is it easy to mistake one for the other, or is the difference between the two clear?
Well, conscious detachment is a very conscious process. It's an intelligent choice, not to interfere. So it is very much like compassion. Being and letting be. That's what detachment is, conscious. Such detachment is a form of keeping the peace and maintaining the space of possibility for other beings. So naturally, certain very highly disciplined peeps, recognizing detachment is the only way that they can do what they have to do to the extreme degree that they're given to do it, whether that's an art form, scientific form, or any other endeavor that requires extreme focus and extreme production, creation for the sake of humanity.
From chapter 123, you write, "Find those who need to be served in higher ways, as well as in functional basic ways, and serve them accordingly, appropriately, and quietly." What should one do in a case where they see that someone has a great need to be served, but that person is just not open to it, or they aren't open to receiving?
Who you're speaking about?
Well, if someone's not open to receiving from certain individuals because of, say, false perceptions or preconceived notions of who that person is or appears to be.
Are you saying, should you serve them anyway?
Yeah, I mean, what sort of advice would you give to someone?
Well, you serve freely. Depends on what your level of service is. And not serve people for anything in return, of course, right? Because that's not really serving, that's qualified giving. That means you really want more than you're giving, in a sense. So when you give freely, you don't want anything. You just want to be able to give, and that's your reward right there, having the freedom to give. So that's a whole other level of giving. And it doesn't in any way depend upon the receptivity or the intelligence or desires of the other person. However, when we're talking one-to-one, then you have to be careful of what you give, because as it has been said, a kindness unwanted is an unkindness. So you better know that who you give, what you give, is wanted or desired, because it may come back to haunt you or hurt you, which is worse. See? So giving is a very important thing. If we're talking about families, then the individual members in, let's say, relationship to one another should realize that there's just so much you should give to the next person, whether it's flack, whether it's something good or whatever you're giving. Make sure that you're giving what is the right measure. Otherwise, you're going to be getting back what you didn't expect, or what you feel you didn't let's say, deserve, in a sense. So we have to see that if we give properly from the heart, wisely, and that's why it's important to be quiet, in a sense, and cool-headed, in a sense, not making that a norm, particularly. But if you want to give properly, then you should know, you have to have some intelligence, some perception of what seems to be necessary for the person. How much they can, if you have sensitivity, then it's better for you to judge how much person should get or whatever it is you can give them. So giving and receiving them becomes a certain art as much as a science. Say, I know this person could use this. Right? I know this person can handle this much of this. And maybe this much is just right for that person. Say. And then maybe it's not the self doing that, maybe it's a higher intelligence doing that in your case. Right? And then when you give them the thing, they say, well, that's exactly what I was hoping for and expecting, but I didn't ever imagine it would come from you. See? And that's the function that we all have, and that is, knowing better. But do we create time to know better for the next person? Do we create time to know better for who we're here to serve? Yeah. And how to do it in such a way where it's really balanced. And I've been working with my own family and my own children, telling them that they cannot be personal about certain things because the results are imbalanced. If you're too personal, you're making too much out of a situation that warrants a more cooler disposition. See? Because there's nothing you can do about certain things, certain karmas, except try to understand how they work and what they're working through, and what's being worked through your particular situation for your betterment in time coming. See? What's coming down because you're creating space for it, or what's coming down because you didn't create any space for it. See? In any case, you're doing your part to either hold back the flow or expedite the process, see, of creating more for others. And more space is very important, as much as things. We're not talking always about things. People don't need things. They need respect, they need space, they need, let's say, grace space, the space to grow. So life, for the most part, in terms of ordinary relationships and the dilemmas that most people experience, is a riddle. How do you know? Okay? How do you know for sure anything? See? That's a big question.
Is balance a factor in the process of giving and receiving when it's done in the spirit of detachment?
If it's done in the spirit of detachment, it's not about giving and receiving. Right? It's not about anything. It's almost like thoughtlessly saying, I have this, I'm going to put it over there. I'm going to move this from there to there. Without any machinations, any special occult mechanisms and operations in your head or your mind. It's just like moving stuff. See? It's free moving, free giving, boom. That's channeling. Okay? And of course you want to bring in intelligence, say, well now I know, I'm free giving, I can do that, that's my function, and so I think this country needs this. Oh, I know this country needs this, so we want to send this country to fulfill the needs and so on and so forth. So it depends on where one is in terms of their channelship, what they have to give and what they should give. See? And what they don't have to give that they should give. See? How do you figure that? What you don't have to give but you should give.